with another episode of the Youth Ministry Booster Podcast. Hang out in the garage with my friend Brian Preston? Brian Preston? Dude, what's up, man?
We are literally in a garage.
We are in the garage. People, listen, like some people don't believe it. Like this is literally Zach.
No, I'm
Workins.
looking at an old school igloo cooler. I'm looking at a secondary fridge in the garage.
Yeah, got the fridge, got the recycling. We got the recycling.
You got an old, is that a rug or a poster? I can't tell.
Yeah, it's
you've got your miscellaneous shoes that you pile by the door.
Yep.
This is a garage.
It's the garagiest of garages. And Brian's here today, hanging out in the garage. We're doing a booster podcast today. We got Brian in the garage with us. So the next few weeks, I got some special guests that are jumping in, chat with some travels and some whatnot.
Emphasis on special.
Special, the best kinds of things. But we're gonna talk about ministry with some youth ministry friends. But yeah, hang out in the garage. This is kind of like a, people think, oh, you're recording. No, it's really the garage.
Literally,
we're here doing the thing.
A car probably goes right there.
Karen's car is literally marked off. We have the little like carpet tape line ready to go.
BT Dub, y'all have the exact same car.
It's true.
You and your wife. I pull up and they're exactly the same.
It makes it easier for oil changes. We just go and we're like, give us another one. Do it again. Yeah. We love a green Subaru.
I was about to say, in the same color, everything.
We love a green Subaru.
Nice.
Got them both. Just a couple years apart. They're like sibling cars. Yeah. Man. But Brian, thanks for coming by today, filling in Chad's shoes. But even better because you got some stories.
We wear about the same size shoe.
The same interest in Nike shoes. Yeah. You're
honestly, we probably could share shoes, Chad. I would like to share shoes with you.
But you're kind of an Air Max guy. He's an Air Force One guy. But maybe
I like Air Force Ones.
Okay, a little share real estate there. Yeah, well, I'm looking for
Air Maxes though.
If anybody is a Dunks friend, I'm happy to share Dunks.
I do like some Dunks
size 11 and a half, 12. Yeah, anybody out there? Brian, is in the summer. We wanted to talk though camp stories. I mean, this is everybody I'm talking to in youth ministry right now are coming back either with really great mountain high. The Lord hath moved. Or, some of those stories that you just treasure away. So, Brian Preston, any recent or forever excellent camp stories that the world should know? Again, documented.
There's a lot of camp stories.
Okay.
Being in ministry as long now as I have and getting a chance to do a lot of times multiple camps in the summer.
Yeah.
But this year...
From many angles. Getting to see from many angles. Yeah,
this year, very sweet. Incredible move of the Lord, and thankful for incredible team of student pastors who allowed God to set the table for God to move, and so God did in a big way.
In Kansas of all places too? Yeah.
No, Piedmont, Missouri.
Oh, Missouri.
Yeah,
okay, sorry.
Missouri. It's not without faults and mistakes. Like we had brawls in the cafeteria. And, all kinds of other things.
Hold on. Yeah. What are they brawling about in the cafeteria?
Oh,
like what? I mean, is that like a day one, like establish my territory brawl? Or is that like a day four, I'm so tired, I'm just looking to pick a fight brawl?
Early in the week, too fresh.
Okay.
We won't go into all that.
Okay.
But I do have a great story. One that I share a lot of times. So I am the guy who very much is now embracing age 37.
Yeah.
I try to work out and be fit, but I understand my limitations.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand my limitations. A couple knee surgeries later.
Your knees remind you.
You understand your limitations. Yeah. But at one point or another, I thought I was a little bit more capable than I was. And honestly, I was probably heavier than I am now. But we were doing a camp one time, and we would do these rec rallies. So we'd go to rec, but before then, we would come together around a circle, do chants, cheers, music's blaring, so kids are doing backflips off the stage. I mean, it is hype. So one thing I know is that, if you want to see vulnerability in the evening, man, exhaust them during the day, build a lot of hype, build a lot of energy, and God will get you there. But we would do these rec rallies.
Wait, tired morning, tearful evening? Did you just give away the game?
That is the game.
Tired mornings, tearful evenings. You heard it first from Brian Preston.
Energy breeds vulnerability, though.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, there you go. You can write that one down. So we're doing this rec rally, and at this point, this is probably like a 15-minute ordeal. At this point, I've already now stage dived twice at camp that week.
Okay.
So like this is not an uncommon theme.
Yeah.
So like I've stage dove maybe
dove
is the
out.
right term.
Yeah.
Off the stage and like at a late night. I've done it once at rec rally. I'm good, right?
Yeah.
These kids are buying the energy. Well,
there he goes, BP again.
I'm feeling it. I'm getting hype. I'm feeling all the energy welling up. And I just thought, oh, this is the moment. Music's blaring. This is the moment. I'm going to do it again. Third time's a charm, right?
Yeah.
Third time's not
Wait,
charm.
hold on. Back it up. The first 2 times, did it end well? Or
it ended well.
Oh,
like, I have confidence
dove
in my
and caught.
abilities at this point.
Yeah, dove and caught. So third time,
by the third time, I'm like, I'm a pro stage diver.
Right.
And
they see me, they ready.
They know. I'm like, oh, they're asking for it, you know? So I go, I get excited. I go to stage dive. And when I do, I dive out over the crowd, right?
Yes.
And I turn my body. And it's at this point that I'm looking ahead and I see I've made a mistake.
Oh.
I have stage dove towards a group not of well-to-do senior boys who can catch me and hurl me.
Yoke dudes.
The yoke dudes. No, this is now I'm looking and I'm seeing like scrawny 6th grade guys. And the fear that I saw, the terror in their eyes. Yeah. They looked at me. It's like slow motion here. And I'm coming across, and now the fear is welling up in my face. They decide, probably intelligently, to move to the side very quickly. And I go stage dive. Thankfully, I kind of turned my body, but I landed smack dab on a slab of concrete. And Chad, oh gosh, Zach.
EC dub.
Zach, I laid there on the concrete, I guarantee you, for 30 minutes.
Just rethinking your life.
I hit the ground and I went, go to rec. The kids go to rec. And I'm just laying there. People are coming up to check on me. I'm like, I'm good. It's more my pride. But my back was also hurting. So I was just sitting there laying on this concrete for 30 minutes.
I like the idea of you dismissing the session from a broken position on the floor. I love the idea of you just like laid up, like cockroach pose, defeat. Like just go.
Yeah, I have admitted defeat. Everybody's looking in like shock and like is he
dead? Is he dead?
Go to rec. And they go. So
well, the hero's journey of arriving that night, not in a back brace.
That's one of the camp stories that to this day I have never stage dove again.
Okay, well, I mean that would,
it is a trauma experience.
Yeah, it is. It's a formative thing that'll stick with you. Camp. And again, that's something that you probably, that's one of the things I love about camp is like, it's hard to imagine many scenarios on a Sunday or even a Wednesday where you're like, bro, the energy's right.
Yeah.
I'm about to dive out top of these kids. But at camp, it's like, that's just Thursday. Like that could be Thursday that you could be ready.
That's the beauty of camp is you will do so many things that you never thought you would do.
Right.
But you will do them at camp.
Well, and that's one of the things, man. So for all the folks that if you're in your last week of camp, God bless you. If you are finished up and you're like looking in your journal and it's become a prayer journal instead of a thought journal, God bless you. But hopefully in the midst of some of those crazy things too, even last night. So I was hanging out with our young dads group at church last night, and the stories that we were telling about summer stuff, because we're now old enough that like our boys are going to like elementary kids camp. Like we're all 37, 38, and we have stories of going to camp. And those things are just so formative and like in positive ways too, not just the like gross. I mean, we had some funny prank stories and whatever, but like, man, sitting with a couple guys, like those are the moments that they still like recount and they're looking forward to. Like, I want my kid to go to the camp that I went to, and like that's a beautiful thing. That's hard to know.
Like working on it
at 26,
working on a staff team of people where like you all at longevity, you've all been there, maybe experienced multiple years. That's the beauty. Like not even with just our student team, but like with other staff members who have done student camp with us for multiple years. It is so fun, man. To sit and just banter back and forth. Oh, you remember when?
Yeah. Like those are that's where stories are made.
The worst experiences.
Yeah. The worst, the best, the unbelievable. It happens there. That's where it happens. Yeah. Well, Brian, we wanted to ask you some ministry questions. One of the things I think in this mode of interviewing some friends is just like, can we learn from you? Like I've always been taken with podcasts as a chance to be kind of like a tribe of mentors, or like I know that I've always learned from the folks we've gotten to talk to. And so for our folks listening to learn from your wisdom, like you've been in ministry for a long time. You served in multiple places in Tennessee and Oklahoma. served at a variety of size churches, at a variety of size levels, now overseeing NextGen ministry for kids and students and families. But like, what was, and maybe there's more than one, but if you had to pick like a key one, like a pivotal moment where like you grew leaps and bounds, or you like rethought or redig. I think for a lot of us in ministry, more than just the things that we get to do, there's like certain chapters along the way. Sometimes that ties to a person, sometimes that ties to a place that we get to serve. But in your own journey, like what were some, like, what was like or one of the like pivotal moments of your ministry path?
That's a great question. I think for me, I'm convinced that you don't get into student ministry without at least some level of ambition to want to like charge the hill, take the hill,
make a difference.
Yeah. And for me early on, it was like getting caught in the rat race of, I want to see the church grow, I want to see the ministry go forward, I want to see, and so like in a lot of ways, I got caught up in like, how can we just grow, do really, probably for lack of better phrasing, numbers driven of how many people can we go get, all that kind of stuff. And I think for me,
the optimistic read is, how do we expand ministry? Maybe if some folks are feeling a little pessimistic, is like, how do we grow? But either way, making a difference, kingdom difference, making kingdom difference.
The heart to want to reach people hasn't changed.
Yeah.
But one of the things that has is I think towards my latter years in Tennessee, and even probably more so predominantly when I came to Oklahoma, was realizing how much is enough, in terms of like hills that we're going to try to tackle.
Yeah.
The heartbeat to want to reach people hasn't changed. I want to reach as many people as we possibly can. But I think what changed for me was going, how can I really become better at getting to the heart of people, not just like brushing past, hurting, all that, but like, how can I really shepherd people well as a leader? And I think that's where I looked at, through a lot of humility and a lot of humbling experiences, but also looking at the ministry of Jesus and going, man, Jesus, didn't rush to herd people. And he was quietly moving, but asking questions, steering to the heart of people, really loving people well. And I think like that's where my mindset began to shift from not just how much can I do and how much can I accomplish. And I didn't say this earlier, but like trying to be known for a lot of the things that I did
produce.
But now instead of that, but how many more people can I empower and encourage and exhort and push to be involved in what God's wanting to do. And the ministry will grow because we're going to reach people, but it's also going to grow because now my heart is not just how much can I do and be identified with, but how can I slow down and connect with people and encourage and empower and exhort them to do ministry really well and effectively. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, say more. Okay, so I recognize, identify with the move from like production to presence, because I think there is a tempo that comes with doing ministry a little longer. Like I think for everybody's first few years,
that's a good word.
It feels like a rush. Like it is this, and it's an excitement rush. And I think that's one of the things to name is an excitement rush. How did that affect like your weekly workflow? Because that's always something that, like, to break it down practically, people are always asking in the booster community and even in some of the Facebook groups that we chat in with, like how do you set up your week? Was there something like in the rhythm of your week? Were you doing stuff differently? Were you doing more, doing less? Were you prioritizing differently? Because I think I identify with the heart shift, but how did that play out for somebody who's like driven and producing, like how did you order your days differently?
I think it's you're still gonna have to manage tasks, right? Like you're still gonna have
still have to get done.
You're still gonna have to accomplish responsibilities that you have in front of you. I think the biggest shift for me in my schedule was prioritizing people over tasks.
Okay.
And when I would focus on like how many more people can I engage with and build relationships with and connection during the week. And then that turn became, how can I now, like, not just connect with them for the sake of shooting the breeze, but really discipleship looks a lot of different ways, right? So it's not just I'm walking through a Bible study with somebody, but it's as I'm going, and teaching them and showing them how to do ministry. So as my work week would go, it was more shifting to people and how can I now start coaching other people to do some of these tasks. And that's where I begin to see the capacity go way beyond me.
Yeah.
Because now, like, we can effectively accomplish way more tasks because all these people are doing so much more.
Yeah.
And my week is really more consumed with relationships.
And
connecting with people. Now, you can't be the guy that just goes up in a coffee shop and sits for 10 hours and reads the Bible and talks to people.
I mean, you can.
You can. But I
yeah.
think that, like, to the point of, at some level, how do I get to the heart of people, but then also coach them?
Yeah.
How can I also develop them? As a pastor, as a minister, my job is to equip the saints. So how can I come alongside of them and not just hear their story, they hear mine, but now we move to a level of how can I encourage them, coach them, develop them to help accomplish ministry?
Well, and that's one of the things I've always valued from our time together is, like, the conversations aren't just relational, I think, in the way that most folks would couch it as, like, we caught up. Like, our relationship is good because we caught up with each other. But there's that added layer of, like, either challenge or coaching or drawing out of somebody that I think, again, for folks that are in a ministerial or pastoral role, there is a level of spiritual authority that discipleship is always the question, what do I do next?
Yeah.
And I think if you have the relationship or the bandwidth that you're meeting with someone as their minister, whether they're your volunteer or a student or a family in your ministry, beyond just are we good, but like growing them. And the line that you share, like, it will grow the ministry. I think that's one of the things that some people can get twisted, is that we'll grow the ministry by adding more people. But the trust factor is growing the people in the ministry that will indeed grow the ministry.
Well, that's the thing that we always talk about with empowering volunteers in your ministry, but the goal is to grow it beyond you.
Yeah.
Well, I can't.
Don't just get more volunteers. Like, you adding 10 more volunteers to do what? Right? To do
how
what?
How can I pour myself into one person who's then going to pour into three?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If you couldn't do, man, it sounds like Jesus. If you weren't faithful with the 3 you had, what were you going to do with 13 more?
He might have been onto something.
Oh gosh! Oh man, no, faithful little and faithful in much. Okay, all right. Brian, tell us the goods, though. We want the goods. What is working in your ministry right now? Like, this is the question. Youth ministry at its healthiest is a collaborative game. Sometimes we get competitive, but just what's maybe not doesn't work for everybody. Give us the contextual spiel, but like, what is, like, right now as you look at your team, like, man, either if you want, and you always are so good about bragging on people, but like, man, like, what's something right now you're like, man, I don't know, but it's working.
Well, 2 things come to mind immediately. One,
2 for 1. I like it.
And well, these are 2 things that I think everybody can do. Okay. So yes, they are contextualized to what's going well right now at Battle Creek Church and within student ministry or kids ministry, but it is something that I think everybody can do. Okay. But one of the things that I think Battle Creek Church does well and is known for is the emphasis on community. And it really is. It's not just. I mean, we've all said the lines, right, of like, we're not just a church of our community, but for
we're for our people,
with community.
Yeah.
However it's said, but I think for us, it's not just. It is literally a DNA piece of who we are. So everything that we do, we are evaluating the content, every piece of content that we make, every piece of programming that we do, like anything that we are going to be about, we're going to run it through the filter of where is connection, relationship, and community. Okay. And that has to be a priority, or else it doesn't work. Because at the end of the day, that's what people are coming for. They're coming for connection. They're coming for relationship. That's what's going to keep them there even long term. Yes, if you want to go online and watch a great sermon, you can watch them anywhere. There's so many sermons online. Yeah. So they're not coming just for a great message. Right. And now you guys even put your sermons.
I watch your sermons and I'm not even there.
Yeah. You may have an incredible teacher and communicator, and we do. But I say that to say it's more that we are focused on community. So we, in our adult ministry, for sure, pastors saying it all the time. Yeah. Like, you have to be in community. If this is the vehicle to take content, take a message, and apply it to your life. But it is not just even for that. It's like even in NextGen ministry, as we evaluate even from young kids, how much time do we allot for them to actually have small group time, not just a kids theater, but actual time to connect in a small group. And it may look different. It's not going to look like an adult small group, but it's
that's right.
But how can we infuse community? Same thing with students. And like camp's a great example. We were talking about camp. We infuse community in every aspect of what we do in camp. So in the worship sessions, community groups, obviously, but then like how we do rec, it's all community group based. The skills in the afternoon, it's all community group based. So like all those different things, we're going, hey, there's value in this. Even a year out with our dream team, our volunteers, we're saying, hey, you need to start setting aside time and vacation time in your work schedule so you can be at camp, so you can be at TWL weekend, some of these things that we do, because it is the 50 weeks of the year outside of that times 2. It is the relational equity that you need with that small group that you're not going to get in just the week to week.
That like actually plan your vacation. We'd rather you miss a regularly scheduled week than to miss this weekend.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and and letting them know, like letting them know that it's not like this is not just an optional thing. This is the thing.
And it's taken a long time to get to that point where a lot of our people, like now, it's like it is second nature. Like we don't struggle to find a lot of volunteers for camp because we talk about it all the time of why it's so valuable for them to be there. But it took some time to get there. So you got to start now in July for next June
talking about
how do you start getting with your people to set aside those things. So community, I think, would be the first part, and you can give commentary to that. I've got another one though.
Okay.
If you want.
Well, the community thing is so good, but I want to double down on what you said about like how you're inviting people to come serve, not just last minute, but year round. Like I think that is something that we could all learn. Again, you said it. This is something for everybody. Like if you need help in ministry, the best time to ask is to ask now for next, and not when it feels like it's too late.
Well, and even in the onboarding process, as you're like bringing in volunteers in your ministry, like we set the expectation up front. Hey, just so you know, we're going to ask you to serve at these other events because it's gonna
bake it in.
Build so much more equity for
part of being a great leader isn't just the Sunday ask. It is the camp or the D-Now or the whatever, because that's where some of this stuff happens too. Okay, community, buy into it. Buy into it.
So community, I think, is one thing, and then the other thing I think that I grew tired several years ago of being the guy that was calling all the time other churches and going, hey, you got any recommendations on staff?
Oh,
you have anybody that you can send my name? Any names you got for me, right? And no fault if that's you now. But I grew tired of that. And one of the things that we begin to do is go, okay, how can we lay the groundwork to develop our own people so that we're not constantly having to go find other people?
Okay.
Now, this may not work in your context, but I do think it can. And for us, at the same time that I was looking to go, how can we develop our volunteers, those who feel called to ministry, all that kind of stuff. At the same time, our church got really serious and heavily invested in our Battle Creek internship program.
Okay.
So we run a 6-month internship program that is a full-time paid internship.
Okay.
So giving some incentive, but the goal being for, regardless of like if it's a fresh out of high school kid or somebody who's just graduated college or even older maybe, if they feel called to vocational ministry or they're wrestling even with that call, this is an opportunity for them to come in 6 months, work, make money, and be able to experience different elements of ministry. So at the same time those things were happening, but we begin to kind of put in, how can we develop our staff? And so I think one of the things that we're doing really well right now is developing staff and future staff. And so we are focused on how can we not just create a pipeline, although that is true. Like I want to create a pipeline of people to draw from. But also how can we develop people for the Capital C Church, the next generation of pastors for the church. So literally in the last 2 years, we've hired, I think, three full-time staff that were formerly volunteers. So they felt called to ministry. We developed them, and now they're hired and serving on our team.
From other professions, right? Like they were working. Like this wasn't like they were. I mean, because I know a little bit of the story, and so these weren't like folks that were like waiting around for a ministry job. You hired them
jobs
from the field, like from whatever they were teaching or leading or directing or doing into a ministry role. I think that's careful to note, because I think sometimes the pipeline for folks is Bible college into church work.
Right.
Some of your people may have been call them home.
I'll make the statement as somebody who went to Bible college and seminary. Seminaries exist because the church failed to develop people for ministry. So now, do we need both? Absolutely.
Sure.
And I'm a product of.
Yeah.
But how can we do a better job as a church to develop people for ministry long term? And so we've hired 3 of those. We've also hired 5 now interns, Battle Creek interns, who have gone through the program as full-time vocational staff within our NextGen ministry. And we've launched out 4 full-time student pastors in different areas across the country.
Yeah.
So in the last 2 years, however many people that is, like we are saying, hey, we want to be serious about this.
Hey, 4 other churches, you're welcome. You're welcome.
But my heart in that is, one, I grew tired of always trying to reach out to other people, and we wanted to create something that would be sustainable for our church long term, but also to develop the next generation of pastors. And my challenge even in that is, I think all of us can do that.
Yeah.
And we may be doing it really well, and I'm really proud of it. But I think most churches can go, hey, how do we get serious about developing people to potentially not just come on our staff eventually, but to launch people into vocational ministry long term.
That bigger picture too of seeing them again, not just we're filling a role for now, but it's going to matter.
Yep,
it's going to matter. Brian, tell us a little bit.
Because we got a lot of people asking us all the time for names and recommendations.
I had 2 phone calls today. Anyway, so one of the things I always want to ask folks that have been in youth ministry for a while, I'll let you fill in the blank for a number of years, but for someone who's been almost 20 years, there are some things that have changed, and there are some challenges that have remained the same. If you're looking out to a group of youth ministry leaders, what are the things that you would note, highlight, or move up the chart either in a new way or an evergreen way that are the challenges? You don't have resolutions, but what are the challenges of youth ministry today?
I think the challenges are culture has progressed so rapidly that we're dealing with a lot of not necessarily foreign issues, but they're multiplying in a different way. So like you may have had people in the past who were struggling with, gender identity or whatever, but now it's multiplied into multiple different ways. So like how do we come alongside of all these different people and minister to them? So I think we've got to do a better job at the church of equipping ourselves for how to engage culture well. Also think like it or love it, which I don't love it, but like it or love it, like we're in a technological age. So how can we continue not just to be dedicated to a social platform or a technological platform, but also don't ignore it and be conscientious of it so that we can continue to reach more people for the gospel well. So
no, and again, I think that's something that a lot of folks would agree with. No, the rate at which the problems seem to quantify, multiply, but also the technology that allows us to connect with students beyond our gathering times. We've talked about it before on the podcast. Youth ministry doesn't just exist for 90 minutes during a midweek. You have ample opportunity through a variety of means and technologies to keep up, mentor, disciple, and connect with your students. And to not leverage those as tools seems like missed opportunity.
Knowledge, 8 years ago, knowledge was doubling every 12 to 18 months. Now it's doubling every 12 to 18 hours.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. And how can we're never going to probably keep up, but how can we at least equip ourselves to meet culture where it's at?
Yeah, that's good. Okay, one more for you.
What about the strength? What's the thing that's the same?
Well, I don't know. I don't really. We'll get there. I want to know. I want to know 2 more things from you. I want to know how you're growing spiritually. That's one of the things. The things are staying the same. Hopefully, yeah. No, but what?
It's relationships, by the way.
It's relationships. The answer is relationships.
We talked
it's
about it.
always relationships. Which is the story of a different podcast, but it's relationships. Well, how are you still growing as a leader? I think this is something that Chad and I have reinforced, is that ministry can be figured out generally. The challenge of ministry is staying wholehearted into it. So how are you continuing to grow? What's pushing you? What's challenging you, Brian? Not your ministry, not your church, but you, Brian Preston.
So I'll preface it with the understanding that because of some things that have happened in ministry, our focus in this next season within our NextGen staff is how can we pursue spiritual wholeness well? And so, and that starts with me. So how can I pursue spiritual wholeness well? How can I pursue holiness? How can I pursue Jesus above everything else? So I may have a task, a responsibility, a job, a ministry, a family that God's called me to lead. But if I don't lead myself, then how can I lead others well? Yeah. And so spending time, ample time in community with the Lord, in communion with the Lord. So for me, practically, it's sitting down, it's walking through Scripture together. Right now, I've got a kid who is 9 years old. I've got two, actually, but one.
But 9-year-old in tow today, hanging out with my kiddo. Yeah, I love it. That's we're literal garage, literal house. They're playing.
Kid is in the house.
Playing FIFA in the house right now, doing the thing.
So, but for him specifically, right now, like I feel pressed to take my time with the Lord from the office, where it's been like a habit and a ritual for a long time, and bring it home, so that I can not just pursue the Lord in my own life every day well, but also set an example for a kid who's watching. Yep. And so I think for me, it's going, who are the people around you that may be watching, that you can set the example of what it looks like to pursue Jesus and read His Word on a daily basis. And so for me, it's doing those things. It's also being in community. Like, again, we talked about it earlier, but that applies to you as a staff person too, or as a minister. Like, you got to be in community. You got to have people that you can commune with and talk with and break things down with and process with. And certainly from a spiritual standpoint, but also just in general, or else we're going to be sideways.
Well, you end up being that empty cipher of just someone who's performing ministry. Yeah. And man, that's bringing your quiet time home is...
It's number one. It was hard for me because I'm so rhythm based.
Well, that's how we start.
I do this.
It's our most important professional task, and yet being caught reading Scripture at home. It's my blue chair in the front room. Like that is in the morning early where I sit. It's book. It's Bible. It's journal, and it's not for show. It's before they all wake up. But it is like that's where it starts. And I think again, getting caught reading Scripture, not to impress your children, but to show your children it's important.
Well, one thing that, and going to the spiritual wholeness, one thing that God has really keeps drawing me back to 2 Corinthians 12:9, like, one, His grace is sufficient, but His power is made strong in my weakness. And on my own accord, like other scriptures that point out, like when we operate in our own flesh, we operate out of death, is what the scripture says.
Yeah.
So I'm a weak man who will struggle and who is not perfect and needs help. And so knowing that, other translations say that God's power is made best in our weakness. And so like for me, I go, okay, time with the Lord is not just I'm going to get close to Jesus, but it's also kind of a daily admitting, I can't do this on my own and I need help.
Okay, one more, and this is for all those that are really thankful for what you said, but you want to know the story behind it. What is something that you've learned, maybe the hard way, that you would want others to know? Like, what is some Brian Preston personal wisdom, ministerial life, like hard for me, but maybe helpful for you to know?
I think the thing that I come back to is it's probably a lot of what I was just alluding to. So early on for me in ministry, I was kind of a good kid, came out of a great Christian home, went to Bible college, but quickly not really having done a lot of understanding of repentance and confession in my own life, started building kind of two separate lives. One that looked really good on the surface with church world, and then another one behind closed doors, hiding and sin, growing. And early on in ministry, one, God humbled me in a big way and tore a lot of things down. I'll say this: God will only allow you to steal His glory for so long, and He's going to get His glory. And so for me, it was a quick learning of it's not just I can't operate. If I operate out of my flesh, I operate out of death. But it's been a daily reminder since that period of time that even from a ministry standpoint, I'm a prideful dude who is very confident in my own ability and thinks really highly of myself at times. And I have to daily remind myself of, God, you are in control of this thing. John 3:30, He must increase, I must decrease. And that has been a constant reminder for me of God. That has been the pivotal moment early on in ministry, and I'm thankful that it's it was one of those moments really heavily early on in ministry, so that I didn't have to necessarily continue to grow in sin and hide things. But it was something that happened early on that was a pivotal shift to going, I don't want to be the guy that's just seen and known. I want to be the guy that builds other people's up. The picture that God's always given me is Aaron and her holding the arms of Moses.
Yeah.
How can I come alongside other people and elevate them? And that was a pivotal shift for me ministry-wise. It really changed the way that I operated, I led, how I did things, and it really encouraged other people to do the same.
Man, and that heart to deeply care about another, and especially this is one of the things that we've talked about that's fostered in our friendship, is to care about other ministers. It breaks my heart that more ministry leaders don't care enough about the well-being of other ministry leaders.
Yeah.
Like there are some folks that like secretly or no secretly, silently or not so silently, like cheer when someone who seems like an opponent in ministry, either or a competitor, because they were at the church down the road or they're from a different theological brand.
Yeah.
And they're like, ha, I knew it.
Yeah.
And that,
or, oh man, that stinks.
oh, darn them. Yeah, guy. Can't believe it would happen to a guy like that.
Yeah.
And just, how important that like this is, and you've said it before, the Big C Church, but more than the organization, it's, it's little C Christians chasing after Big C Christ. And I think that is something that we as a people have got to cultivate a compassion for, to see our spot, that we would lift others higher than ourselves. So
it's something that we've walked through even amongst our staff of recent days, but if restoration and understanding the humility of ministry is not prevalent, like or you struggle with it, like reach out, like, because one of the things that we want to continue to see is that it's a sobering reminder every time it happens of I'm but one dumb mistake away, stupid decision away from being in the exact same spot.
Yeah.
And so God, would you humble me today?
Yeah.
Draw out any wicked ways in me so that I can repent, confess, and continue to grow forward in my relationship with Christ. And daily that's a prayer daily, so that we don't get to the same spots.
Well, my friend, thanks for coming by today. Always good to have friends in the garage. And so we'll see you back in a couple weeks with some more friends on the Youth Ministry Booster podcast, and we'll talk to you soon.
Come on.